was the 2001 drawing, which was basically done out of the governor's office. Roy Barnes was governor at the time. And in contrast to that process, this one was set up with a legislative redistricting office that was in the Coverdale building, and those legislative offices are located. The staff there was available to meet with legislators one-on-one, and I took advantage of that. I went there to find out, what needed to be done to make these new districts, the ones that I represented, comply, population-wise, get it up, because I knew, I learned at one of those meetings that I had to give up more votes, more population. So that was very open as far as the door. People could go in there and draw their own maps, regardless of party. That's unique. Hadn't been done like that before. It was at that point. It really came down to meeting with your neighbors, and the most important neighbor in my district was Senator Davis. That's why I met with him, and we pretty much worked it out. There were no disagreements, and at that point we went back to the redistricting staff and said, we're okay with maps. Now, the vote came down on a party line basis, but that was because, everybody, on the Democrat side, I was happy with the map that came out of it. Senator Davis voted against it. I'm not sure why, but prior to that, he was okay with the map. The outcome on the Senate side, in contrast to 10 years ago, was that there were fewer counties split, fewer precincts split. There was an additional minority district added. In contrast to the map of Governor Barnes, three-quarters of the residents of the district remained in their district in the Senate side. When the map was drawn in 2001, it was just over 50%. So there was a lot of reshuffling back in 2001. The districts in the 01 map crossed the entire state in several instances. These districts that were drawn for this map were drawn to be compact and to try to maintain communities of interest. The legal standards, which there was a lot of openness. I'm sure maps aren't ideal, and nobody's completely satisfied. Oh, one other thing, the Senate maps drawn 10 years ago paired 10 Republican incumbents with each other. That was 40% of the Republican delegation would have to run against another Republican. In contrast, the maps that were drawn this year, only two incumbents. The criteria is the communities of interest, fair representation of the population, and I think that's been accomplished. I think the maps are completely legal. I don't know what will come out if it goes into litigation. The last time the court did decide to draw how the maps were drawn, just from an incumbent point of view, they put 20 2, I believe, incumbents in the same districts. The courts did, and that's because the courts really cared nothing about, where incumbents were located. But there is a good reason to consider that, because voters, to some extent, like to have continuity. But there's a good argument on the other side that we need to shake it up. Yes, sir.
I'd like to comment.
I know that efforts were made to avoid pitting incumbents together unnecessarily. And I understand from anecdotal information that on the House side there were some Republicans pitted together. I would disagree that there's any cynical plan.
Is that you look at the whole state as a whole, South Georgia lost a lot of population, rural lost a lot of population. So you got to get the population from somewhere so you can continue to have one man or one person, one vote. So in South Georgia, you're going to have to expand a district that lost a lot of population. It's going to have to move somewhere because you're pretty much tied in by the boundaries of the state. Where are you going to get the population? The population growth in the state was around Atlanta, the suburb area, and the northern part, and also in Columbia County was also had a lot of growth as well. But other than that, the rural areas, there wasn't a lot of growth, so you got to get the population from somewhere. That's the reason why you have the redistricting. So everybody represents the equal number of people. And that's the reason that people get moved into the district. You try not to do that, but obviously when you're contained by certain boundaries, like for example Florida or Alabama on this side, you got to be able to move the district somewhere, and sometimes people get thrown in another district. I think they try to work around that. But it has to be based on where the population is. Okay, the big population is in Atlanta, the northern part, and the areas that are really growing. So you need to look at that as well.
Excuse me, before we go forward to the next question, you'd have to really look at the map, the way it was drawn, to see how some districts are drawn like a snake-like manner, just connecting communities without any common interest. So there's a lot of that in Metro Atlanta, and it was drawn in the manner that you've got incumbents, especially in the Democratic Party, challenge each other. There was a comment made about some 10 years ago. 10 years ago, Georgia was a different state. We've grown by 18%. So we need to prepare ourselves in a different manner. We don't need to go back to the ways of old and justify what we're doing now about what happened 10 years ago. We can't continue to punish each other over and over and over again. I mean, we got border states that are just passing us now. People are forgetting about Georgia, so they're going back to the days of old. They're looking at other places, such as North Carolina, Tennessee. Wow, we're going through these little wars, in-house wars. We got challenges dealing with education. We got other issues to deal with other than what we're dealing with now. Now, can you imagine if we had one party that controlled everything? I mean, that's not like Georgia.
This is one of those cases where taking advantage of the fact that there are minority districts to draw, whether they're African American, Latino, Asian, especially in a diverse community like the county of Gwinnett now, you can pretend you're drawing a favorable district, in which case they did for Latinos. However, they drew out the one Latino elected that was in that district, Pedro Marin. He's now in a district that has a pattern of voting Republican in a way that would be very difficult, some say impossible, for him to win, simply because now they've drawn him out of a district where people could choose, Latinos could choose.